The topic of this screencast is political party machines, or what I also call when good parties go bad. A political party machine is not really a tangible machine, yet it's an organization. And so what happens to form a political party machine, as it's called? A political party gets so entrenched and becomes an organized system within typically a local government, like a city, that they control everything that happens in that city politically and typically economically. It's also led by a party boss, who typically is the mayor, who's been elected, and also will appoint and has elected people who are in the same political party as the boss in order to control, again, the local government. You don't typically find political party machines in state government levels or federal government levels. Typically, you find them only entrenched within a city. In order for a political party machine to work, you have to have a reciprocal relationship, a give and take, so to speak. You have to have the political party and those members of the political party and, of course, the citizenry of that city. And the political party machines work because the boss, or the party, ensures that the needs of the people are met, typically in terms of jobs and housing. In return, the people will get out the vote, and they will actually keep the boss and that political party in power because they realize that their needs are being met by this political party in particular. So while that doesn't seem so bad, because, isn't that typically what a political party does? They'll make promises about helping America, and then people will vote them into power. Sure, that sounds fine, but that's not true necessarily of a political party machine. They actually go through and utilize fraudulent means to meet the needs of the people and also to stay in power. So they're very corrupt using graft. In other words, graft there defined on your screen, using political influence and power to gain money or advantage. And they'll make the party bosses and the people of that political party in the machine will make themselves very, very wealthy. And they'll make sure that by using their power that the other political party or parties cannot gain influence within that city. They're also very corrupt because they'll use bribes and extortion in order to meet the needs of the people and also to get whatever needs to be done to keep them in power. That also includes corruption within voting. And they'll even have people who are supposedly dead to vote, dogs to vote. They'll make up names to vote. So they'll use fraudulent voting methods in order to maintain their power. And so really that's the difference between a political party that does what it's supposed to do legally versus a political party machine that operates based on fraudulent tactics in order to meet the needs of the people, but more importantly, their goal is to maintain power. Now granted, that's a function of a political party, and what they want to do is get their candidates elected to office so they can affect change in government. But in a political party machine, they use, again, fraudulent tactics in order to gain and then maintain that power. So that means democracy is actually not an issue because they will squeeze out any kind of competition that they have from other people or other political parties. And one of the most important ways that a political party machine will gain and maintain power and control within a city is through the use of what's called patronage. It's also called the spoils system. Basically all this is where the political party machine or boss will actually give or appoint political offices and jobs in exchange for support and votes. And so if you will support that political party and that party boss, then that party boss and political party will give you whatever position or seat or job that you want within that city, within that party machine, in order to help them maintain power. Again, that's highly illegal, it's very corrupt, and it doesn't open an opportunity for true democracy. And I've always thought that political party machines are kind of far-fetched and strange, so I've tried to provide an example about something that actually happened in one of the most famous political party machines, so that we can kind of talk about this. So during the late 1800s in the United States, as you'll learn in U.S. history, a lot of cities were actually under the control of political machines. One of the most powerful was the Democratic Tammany Hall political machine, and that was just its name, Tammany Hall. And all it is where New York City, was controlled by the Democrat Party for quite some time and was very influential in a lot of elections in New York. But in particular, in the 1860s and 1870s, New York City was under the control of who was known as William or Boss Tweed. And this guy defrauded the city of New York out of money that estimated anywhere between $30 million to $200 million. That's a lot of money for him to basically embezzle from the city of New York. And he did that for himself and for his political party so that the Democrats can maintain control of New York City. But this political party machine of Tammany Hall was actually taken down through legal channels in terms of lawyers who were willing to prosecute, and also Thomas Nast, who was a political cartoonist. And one of the reasons why political cartoons were really important in helping to bring down Tammany Hall and Boss Tweed is because a lot of Boss Tweed support came from immigrants, as was true for a lot of political party machines. Because what would happen is immigrants would come to the United States and they would urbanize. They would settle in cities to begin with before they would, say, try to move out west. So you had a lot of immigrants living within cities. And some of them couldn't read or write in English or at all, as it were. So the political cartoon itself was just a one-picture statement so that people who couldn't read at all or read English could see this picture and relate Boss Tweed to corruption and fraudulent methods of democracy. So we'll take a look at a couple of his political cartoons that helped to bring down what was called the Tweed Ring. But Thomas Nast, just a little bit of background about him, he was a political satirist for Harper's Weekly. And again, he published a lot of these political cartoons, or he published a whole bunch, in order to help bring the public's awareness to this political party machine and all of the fraudulent tactics that they were using. Nast's cartoons even helped to identify Boss Tweed when Tweed was arrested, I think for the second time, and he had actually fled to Spain, and Tweed was captured and returned to the United States for imprisonment due to the fact that people could identify Boss Tweed from Nast's political cartoons. And this was pretty dangerous, of course, for Thomas Nast, because he was bringing down this really powerful, really wealthy, far-reaching political machine within New York City. And some sources that I've read even say, of course, he had death threats against him and his family. So that was pretty serious, pretty dangerous, but he felt there was a need to stop this kind of corruption that was happening in New York City. And actually, in the late 1800s, as you'll learn throughout U.S. history as you're taking that class, was happening all over the United States. It was very problematic. So there needed to be some sort of reform to take shape, and there was. So taking a look at an example of Thomas Nast's cartoon, this is probably one of his most famous, and it's hard to see the caption at the bottom, but to kind of explain what's going on here so that we can look at and start to interpret political cartoons. The caption at the bottom, in really tiny writing, reads, "The Tammany Tiger Loose, or what are you going to do about it?" And if you look at the tiger, it's mauling what's supposed to look like Lady Liberty. The Constitution is supposed to be down there. There's a lot of spectators who see it happening but can't do anything about it. It's supposed to look like the Roman Colosseum in terms of almost like gladiator time periods. So when you look at political cartoons like this, instead of saying, well, I don't understand what's going on there, look for key elements within that political cartoon. So there are 4 questions here to kind of consider. So what the tiger represents. And the collar on the tiger, I don't know if you could see that, but it's supposed to say Americus. So there's the collar on the tiger, and the tiger has mauled that Lady Liberty. There's the sword there that's even broken nearby. And the 3rd question is, what is the setting supposed to resemble? Well, of course, that's the gladiator time period, the Roman Colosseum. And obviously the artist's opinion on political machines, not favorable. So you've got this collared tiger, this seemingly, even though it's got Americus on its collar, this Tammany tiger, and that's supposed to represent Tammany Hall. And just looking at this, one of the main reasons this was so famous for Thomas Nast is that it really drove home the point that there are, people, spectators watching this happen and really aren't doing anything about it. And obviously the tiger has mauled more than one person. I mean, there's this couple of people there that within the Colosseum. So this is a pretty serious event that really brings about, this one political cartoon brings about a good deal of awareness of the citizens about what's going on with Tammany Hall and its corruption. So the second cartoon is in regards to counting the ballots, and you can see there questions 1 and 2 at the bottom. Who is a large man supposed to represent? And what is an artist's opinion about votes in a political machine? Well, this large man, of course, is leaning on the ballot box that says, "In counting there is strength," and then at the bottom the caption reads, "That's what's the matter, Boss Tweed. As long as I count the votes, what are you going to do about it, say?" Well, obviously that's supposed to demonstrate the power that Boss Tweed has in terms of the vote. Very corrupt, very shady. And that's what this political cartoon is representing, and the point he's trying to drive home to the people, that unless they're willing to be aware of what's going on, that Boss Tweed is going to maintain control over what he's doing for New York City. And the last cartoon I thought was also rather obvious in terms of the message that Thomas Nast was trying to deliver, whose thumb is on New York, and what's the artist's opinion about William Boss Tweed's control on New York. So there you have the caption that says "Under the Thumb," and then there's the cuff link with William M. Tweed, which is Boss Tweed, and it says the caption "Under the Thumb, the boss, what are you going to do about it?" And that was one of Boss Tweed's favorite sayings, as it goes, "What are you going to do about it?" because he felt like almost he was untouchable. Even the first time he was arrested, a lot of the people, citizens of New York City, particularly immigrants, were still willing to vote for him, wanted to vote for him and put him in office because their needs were being met, even though it was through corrupt means. All that people knew at the time was that their needs were being met. And so Thomas Nast really felt this drive to bring awareness to the crookedness and the corruption of what was going on, that this is not democracy. This is not truly what voting is supposed to be. And this is, of course, can be really detrimental to New York City. And he eventually helped to do that and bring about the collapse of William Boss Tweed and Tammany Hall. So now all you have to do is go answer the one question that's in Canvas about political party machines.